recognize that I am subscribed, actually. Don't give me that. Don't do that. It's not gonna cooperate, I suppose. The heck with it. But if you get the chance, have a look in the opinion section. It's actually from a different source. You know, the Anchorage Daily News is too poor to actually have authors for all the interesting stuff going on, so they copy articles from other, yeah, etc. All right. Well, so I love pointing out the idea that Aristotelian categorical thinking is the way you're supposed to learn how to think in Western institutions, universities, and the way our science is built on it, right? But when we think about other ways of knowing, how do you account for that? Clearly not through a categorical Aristotelian way of thinking, right? They're talking about a completely different way of thinking. And I do think Plato is close to that, the idea that the mind only really knows when it's one with the universe. Right? Also sounds Buddhist. You know, if you think of it, you know, what's meditation all about? Meditative techniques are supposed to teach you to stop thinking the way Aristotle taught us to think. Right? So I'll just leave it at that and let it go. Okay. So, getting back to Aristotle, where did I have? So, thinking about Aristotle and his approach to things, his mathematics, his physics, biology, psychology, metaphysics, all of these. He wrote about everything. I think I went through like the list. The four causes, we talked about that. By the way, the Poetics is a book that he wrote that we have the copy associated with tragedy, but there was probably a section on comedy and that was lost. And if you're a fan of Umberto Eco and you ever watched The Name of the Rose, or read the book, The Name of the Rose? No one. Sean Connery was in the movie when he was younger and less sexy, I guess. Yeah. Wow, I mean, you know. In any case, the main plot element of that was there was a copy of the comic section or the comedic section of the Poetics in the monastery, and one of the monks, the older monks, had poisoned it to kill anybody that read it. And so, of course, it's a murder mystery, and you have all these monks dying, and no one knows why. And Sean Connery, as William figures out, Brother William, he figures out that they're all connected to the passing this book along, and what's happened is the elder monk that doesn't want anyone reading it has put arsenic on the page. Everybody in the monastery goes like this when they're reading. And so, of course, it kills anyone who reads it. So that's, I'll have to, we can do this, right?
At Cook Unity, no two chefs look alike. Our goal here isn't to achieve sameness.
Within these walls, Men come to seek God. He has come to seek a killer.
From the body already mitigated. I believe in those with Lucius Angelo, Zapata.
A man of reason in a world of blind faith.
Yes, small blood here.
You mean that he committed suicide?
Elementary.
And a crime that will not be suppressed.
In states.
He did not write with his tongue.
Don't like this place.
I find it most stimulating.
We kill him.
No, I am most curious to see the library for myself, and I do so. No, but partly we should learn it of his own accord. Written with lemon juice. Hey, who's there? You overestimate his talents.
This one, Cratchit, did not commit suicide. When he is challenged by a man of cruelty and power, the hunter becomes the hunted.
Well, I give you plea. Matter has occurred of the uttermost gravity. Had someone else not chosen to look in the wrong direction, several little God might still be with us.
Our monks will meet their deaths here, and they also will have blackened fingers and blackened thumb.
He's planning his death, just as Brother William foretold.
Yes.
Just as I, too, would have known had I been the murderer. You will not wait. Lock them up!
One final murder has been planned.
Master! How do we get out? With some difficulty.
And it's his, Sean Connery, as Murray Abraham. The Name of the Rose, a story of unholy murder.
That was a plug for the movie, so just so you know. I think it's, and the book, by the way, the book is fantastic. Okay, so material causes. That seems really strange. We usually don't talk of it that way, but there's other. Remember, the material and the formal are something he shared with Plato, but he adds the efficient and the final. Those are one type of category that everything has. Everything must have all of those causes, or they don't exist. Have to have substance. Anything that has substance has to have shape. Anything that has shape obtained that shape as a result of a process and will change into something else, some other shape, right? And then the final cause is the purpose it has in being there. Remember the ethics is about human character. What's the character of a human being? The shape, or the telos, the purpose of a human being is to know. All men love to know. And so a life structured on being able to have enough food so that you have enough time to be participating in society, and then in that participation can focus on knowledge. That is, kind of the ideal situation for the human life, right? And by the way, the biased view of Aristotle, because that's exactly what he enjoyed doing, was learning things, right? So that's kind of an overview of, and by the way, eudaimonia, you keep hearing that's the highest good for Aristotle, and EU is the prefix that means good, like euthanasia, right, means a good death. Eudaimonia means the good demon, and it seems to us, because mostly we use the concept of a demon in a foul way. It's an evil thing. And what do the demons do? They take over you. Well, for Aristotle in his time, a daimon was also a good thing. You have a good one. And the good one is the excitement that you have over learning something, or enjoying a particular game. If you're cheering your team and everything, you can see the whole audience that are all cheering and everything are experiencing eudaimonia of a certain type. Right? So it's self-realization. So finding a job that you love, that's the kind of job that you don't feel like you're doing work because you love it so much you would do it even if you were off, that kind of thing, eudaimonia. All right. So I also mentioned that Aristotle's main student, the one we're most, we think of most famously, was Alexander the Great. And once Alexander the Great died, then the empire that Alexander had created, very briefly, was broken up under his three generals, and that creates cracks in the empire that end up becoming areas where the different sides go to battle over things. If you're into history of Palestine or Israel, notice that it was during one of those periods that there was an opportunity for Israel to win its independence, because it was an in-between kingdom that wasn't that important to either of the two other parts of the empire, and so they basically ignored it for long enough for the Maccabees to win their freedom and keep it for a while, right? So that's kind of interesting too, I suppose. Okay, so who's the first one, that we want to look at today? I like arranging this in what I think of as a logical sequence, and I start with the side who is least interested in the best for the society, and that would be the cynics. And the perfect example that everyone uses for the cynics is Diogenes. Ever heard of him before? Yes? Filthy guy, slime ball, basically, as far as everyone is concerned. He's pictured here with the lantern, because he goes around during the daylight with the lantern, and people say, "What are you doing?" "I'm looking for an honest man." Oh, what does that mean? I don't know. By the way, the dog is also interesting, because cynic is essentially the word based on the word for dog in Greek. So it's also referred to as the dog philosophy. And where does that fit in? Well, have you ever seen an unhappy dog? Well, of course you have. But if the dog is fed and it's lying in the sun or the shade or wherever it wants to be, I left my house and my Saint Bernard was a very happy dog. That's the cynic. It's happy just with its bowl of food and its warm place to lie down. He slept in a barrel, a wooden barrel in Athens, pretty famous. They have pictures of him somehow in like a big wine cask or something. I think of it as the individuals that are camped out, in Anchorage, that when people say, "We've got a place for you to move in," they're like, "I'm not interested." They like where they are. There are people that like being just in a tent, in the woods, and they live that way because that's what they want to do. They don't want to be involved in duties. They don't want to have taxes. They don't want to have any social requirements at all, basically. And yes, if they want to drink, they do. And if they want to be nasty, they can be. They just, the dog philosophy, the cynic philosophy. And what are they trying to do? They're trying to escape from the tensions associated with other philosophical points of view that require things of you. So now here's an interesting part of this, though, and that is that some argue that Diogenes was influenced by Socrates, not by Plato, but more directly as a chain with Socrates, because Socrates had a lot of these same characteristics. Remember, they killed him. One of the reasons they killed him was he was so annoying. He would argue with people. Diogenes would argue with people. Socrates didn't write, Diogenes didn't write, as far as we know, although we have quotations attributed to him. One of the most famous stories is that Alexander the Great and one of his generals heard that Diogenes was over